Hello guys, welcome back again to another tutorial. My name is Dorothy. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how I made this beautiful stylish shift dress with a black velvet bias design that run from the neck area all the way to the center front. If you're interested in learning how to make this dress, watch this video to the end so you don't miss out on any detail or explanation. Without further ado, let's get started with the video. I will be using this beautiful Ankara print for this tutorial, and I'm using 2.5 yards of it, and also I have this black velvet bias design that I'll be using to design the dress. So now I'm going to fold this fabric into two so we can draft the front pattern. This is it after I was done folding this fabric into two. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a line on this upper side here, and this line is going to serve as my starting line or my shoulder line. Here on my center front right here, I'm going to mark 1 inch from top to bottom, just the way you see me doing. And after I'm done marking all these points, I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect all these points that are marked. For this dress, the sleeve is cut together with the shoulder, and the shoulder measurement I am working with is 7 inches, while the sleeve length is 12 inches. My client wants her sleeve below her elbow, so when I added the both figures together, that is 7 plus 12, I had 19 inches. On this shoulder line or starting line, I marked 19 inches. Make sure your measurement is from this 1 inch line, not from the center front, okay? So on this point, I mark 19 inches. I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, but before I do that, I have to take the neckline measurement. The neck width I am working with is 3 inches, while the neck depth is 7 inches. Now I will use my ruler to connect these 2 points I marked together to form a V neckline. Okay, I am working with a V neckline here. Now to slanten the shoulder, like I said earlier, on this point I marked 19 inches. I came down by 1 inch, then I connected a slant line from this 1 inch point all the way to the neckline, just like you see me doing. Now on this 1 inch point that I marked for the shoulder slant, I'm going to come down there by 10 inches for the sleeve width. Then I connected a straight line to meet the 1 inch point. The next thing I'm going to do is to take the vertical measurements, which is the bust point, the waistline, and the hip line, and the length of the dress. So from the shoulder to the bust point is 9 inches. I marked that. Shoulder to the waistline is 13 inches. I marked that as well. Then shoulder to the hip line is 23 inches. I marked that. Then finally shoulder to the length of this dress is 40 inches. Then I added 2 inches folding allowance, making it 42. I marked that, but my camera didn't capture it. So go ahead and use your own body measurement. After I'm done marking all these points, I'm going to use my ruler to connect the point that I marked horizontally. On the bust point, I divided the round bust measurements by 4 and I marked it. Then I added 2 inches sewing allowance to it. I did the same thing on the waistline as well. I divided the round waist measurement by 4 and I marked it. The round waist measurement I am working with here is 26. 26 divided by 4 is 6.5. I marked the 6.5 there and I added 2 inches sewing allowance as well. On the hip line, I divided the round hip measurement by 4 and I marked it. Then I added 2 inches sewing allowance to it. The hip circumference I am working with is 34. 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. After marking that, I added my 2 inches sewing allowance. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect the points that I marked together. Okay, I simply connect the point on the hip to the waistline, then to the bust point. From the bust point, I'll just use my chalk to create a curvy line like this to create the armhole on the dress all the way to the sleeve width. Okay, the total length of this dress I'm working with is 42 inches. So from this hip line, I came down by 17 inches. Then I connected the point I marked horizontally. On this length, I marked the hip measurement here. Okay, then I connected a straight line from the hip all the way to the dress length. After that, I'm going to cut this out. So I cut through from the length of the sleeve all the way to the side, then to the armhole curve like this. I hope you can see what I am doing. Then I went ahead to cut on the shoulder slant. So now to cut out the V neckline, this 1 inch that I marked earlier, I'm going to fold it in, and if possible you can pin this or use iron to make it stay flat, just the way you see me doing. So you can see what I have after I was done ironing the 1 inch in. So now I'll go ahead and cut out the neckline out, and that's all for the drafting and cutting of the front piece. So the next thing is for us to fold another pieces of fabric so that we can draft the back piece. I have folded another pieces of fabric into 2, and as you can see I have placed my front piece on the back piece. Okay, I had left an allowance at the center back here, and this allowance is about 1.5 inches. This allowance is for the zipper allowance. Now to work on the neck area, because what we'll be doing for the back piece is just to adjust the neck area. So on this shoulder line, I'll just use my ruler to extend the line out. Then on that point I came down by 1.5 inches for the neck depth. Then I'm going to connect the point all the way to meet the neck width. Okay, for my back neckline, it's going to be a round neckline, so I just create a round neckline just the way you see me doing. After that, I'm going to cut this out, and I will also be cutting on all the side. Okay, the front and the back piece are the same. It's just the zipper allowance and the neck depth that differentiate them. So guys, I'm done cutting my front and my back piece. So the next thing I'm going to do is to open the back piece up. After that, I remove my front piece from the back piece. Then on this allowance that I left on the front piece, I'm going to open it up as well. For the front slit, I want my slit to stop at 25 inches, but I later adjusted this though. So from my neckline, I measured down to 25 inches, then I make a point there. So I'm going to join this side all the way to the top. I'll be stitching this part. For the back piece, I just locate the zipper allowance, then I notched it. After notching the zipper, I'm just going to fix the zipper, and I'm using invisible zipper for this. Okay, so I mark the length where my zipper will stop. Then for the remaining part, I'm just going to block it all the way down to the length of the dress. This is what I have after I was done joining the front pieces together, and I also went ahead to iron it flat. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'll be using my bias tape to pipe the neckline. So I flip this over to the front side, then I went ahead to use my bias tape to pin all around the neck area. After I was done using my pin to pin the bias around the neckline, I will take this over to the sewing machine and I will run a stitch. Then I'm going to fold the bias tape in like this and top stitch on it. And also for my back piece, I'm going to do the same thing as well. I'm just going to use my bias tape to pipe the neckline. So let me go and do this and bring it so you see what we have. So this is what I have after I was done piping the neckline. This is my front piece, and you can see how neat this is. And I also did the same thing to the back piece as well. I also piped my neckline, fixed my zipper. You can see how clean this is looking already. So the next thing we want to do at this front piece here on this allowance, you can just weave the edges, then use hemming gum to hold it together, or you just do it the way you see me doing it. Just fold in the edges like this, then run a top stitch on it. For me, I'll be running the top stitch after I'm done folding it. So I'll just fold it in like this, then I'll head over to the sewing machine and run a top stitch. So this is what I have after I was done folding the edges and running a top stitch on it. So doing this to give the clothes a better finishing and a neater look. Okay, so guys, the next thing we'll be doing is using this black velvet bias to design the neckline. So I'll just place my bias around the V neckline like this, then I'll use my pin to hold it together. So this is how I'll be pinning this down. I'll just arrange it properly, then use pin to pin it together. So when I get to this V neckline, where the V neckline is, there's just going to be a little bit of gaping on this allowance, so just fold it in a little bit okay, so that it will relax properly. Then go ahead and use the pin to pin it down. And after that, I'm going to continue fixing these bias all the way down to the length of the dress. When I'm through with this particular side, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side as well. And this is what I have after I was done pinning my bias around the neckline. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the sewing machine now, and I'm going to top stitch on it on both sides. Okay, for the pocket, I already cut these pieces of fabric that I'll be using for the pocket. The length of these pieces is 12 inches while the width is 7 inches. So from this top here, I came down by 7 inches. This 7 inches is the allowance where we'll be placing our hand from to the pocket. Okay, so I make a mark there. So from the point I mark 7 inches, I'm just going to give my pocket a curve like this. We don't need any measurement for this, so just go ahead and give your pocket a curve. After cutting this space, I'm going to place this on another piece of fabric to cut the second piece of the pocket out. I'm done stitching the bias down. You can see how this is looking already. So the next I'm going to do is to join my front and my back pieces together. So I just place my front piece on my back piece, right sides facing each other. Then I arrange the shoulder line properly. After arranging the shoulder, I use my pin to hold them together, and I did the same thing to the other shoulder as well. I just place the back and the front shoulder together, then I use my pins to pin it together. To fix the pocket and the side of this dress, I arranged the dress properly on the table just the way you see me doing. Then I measured where the pocket will stay. So from the shoulder, I came down by 16 inches and I make a mark there. That is where I want my pocket to start. On the other side, I did the same thing as well. From the shoulder, I came down by 16 inches and I marked it. So the next thing we want to do is to take our body measurement, that is the vertical measurement. So on the shoulder, I came down by 9 inches for the bust point and I marked that, and I marked 14 inches also for the waist measurement, then 24 inches for the hip measurement. Then I drew an horizontal line across this point that I marked. Here on the bust point, I divided my round bust measurement by 2 and I marked it, taking note of the allowances that I left. The round bust measurement I'm working with is 32. 32 divided by 2 is 16 inches, so I marked 16 inches on the bust point. Then here on the waistline, I did the same thing. I divided the round waist measurement by 2 as well and I marked it. The round waist measurement I am working with is 26. 26 divided by 2 is 30 inches, so I marked 30 inches on the waistline. Here on the hip line, I divided the round hip measurement I am working with by 2 also and I marked that. The round hip measurement I am working with is 34, and 34 divided by 2 is 17 inches, so I marked 17 inches on the hip line, taking note of all the measurements. After marking all the points, I use my chalk to connect all the points that I marked together. Now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I will sew from the sleeve all the way to this point where I marked my pocket. Okay, that's where the pocket will start and I stop there. Okay, to get the pocket width, so on this point where the pocket will start, I came down by 7 inches and I marked that. Now from this 7 inches point, I will sew all the way down to the length of the dress. That is, I'm going to sew from my sleeve all the way to where the pocket will start and I will stop there. Then I'll continue from where the pocket stopped all the way down to the length of the dress. I hope you guys understand me. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I will sew this, then I'll bring it so you see what we have. This is what I have after I was done joining the shoulder, and I also went ahead to fold the sleeve and sew it as well. Then after that, I arranged the bodies together. Then I went to join from the sleeve all the way down to the length of the dress, leaving the side where I'll be placing the pockets. The next thing I will do is to place the pieces of pocket on the dress, right side facing each other. So I pick one of this piece of the pocket and place it on the dress like this, just the way you see me doing. Then I use my pin to hold it together, and I did the same thing to the second piece as well. I simply place the second piece of the pocket on the other side of the dress, then I use my pin to hold it together. After that, I'll arrange the pocket together properly and I'll head over to the sewing machine and I will sew it, and I'll also do the same thing to the other side of the pocket as well. This is what I have after I was done sewing the pocket, and I also went ahead to weave the dress. You can see how neat this is. Always remember to weave your dress or clothes after you are done sewing. This will give it a more neater finishing on the inside. I'm basically done with the sewing of this dress. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point. Do not forget to give this video a thumb up and also subscribe if you haven't. If you have any question concerning this tutorial, please leave your question on the comment section and I will attend to it. See you all in my next video. Bye.